Starting in our comfortable seated position today, give ourselves a little bit of a wiggle. Feel the sitting bones pressing down into our mats. We close our eyes. Start to bring those thoughts inward. Check in with how we are feeling today. At this moment, remind ourselves that we are working on this body that we have right now. So things may behave differently than they did yesterday or the way they may later on in the day, and that is totally fine. Get rid of those expectations. Get rid of the competition and the judgment. And then on our next inhale, we'll lift the hands up to the sky. And we'll even bring those shoulders all the way up into our ears. And then exhale. Let those shoulders just drop away. Hands can find the floor to either side of our hips. Make ourselves nice and tall. And then exhale. We'll just lower our ear over to one shoulder. Opening up in the neck and in the top of the shoulder. Breathing into the belly. And then we'll slowly lower the chin down to the chest. Let the head just hang. Using the breath, just let those shoulders relax away from the ears. Good. And then lifting the chin on the inhale. Exhale. Bring the head over to the other side. Take a few breaths here. And then on our next exhale, just let the chin fall down to the center. Feel the weight of the head help lower the chin down to the chest. And we'll slowly lift the chin up to a neutral spine. Good. Nice. And now we'll open up the arms like we want a big hug. Drop the shoulders, open the chest, even open up the fingers really wide. You can even give them a little bit of a wiggle if we would like. Good. And then we're just going to take that left arm, reach across, and use the right arm to help it stay across the body as we're reaching with the left arm, dropping the shoulder. One more breath here. Good, and then release back up to that hug. Big, wide chest. Lower the shoulders. And then we'll move over to the other side. So the right arm will come across, left arm will help. You either use the elbow or use your hand. Drop that right shoulder away from the ear. Keep reaching across the body with that right hand. And breathe into that belly so the spine is good and supported. One more breath here. Excellent. Releasing the hands, and let's open them up and then reach them up to the sky. Good. Now let's take that left hand. We'll drop it back behind the head like we have an itch that we just need to scratch. And then we'll use that right hand to touch the elbow if we need, or if we would like, we can try and reach the fingers back behind. If we have our strap, that's really awesome too. But what our aim is to open up in that tricep, in the armpit, without moving our head. So maybe bring our gaze up toward the sky. One more breath here. And on that exhale, let's release, wiggle the fingers if we need, and then inhale, hands come up again to the sky, and we'll move over to the other side, reaching behind the head with that right arm, trying to scratch that impossible spot. Left hand comes to the rescue, bringing the gaze up a little bit higher. Do one more breath here. Good, and then on the exhale, we'll just release those arms. We need a little wiggle. And then we'll just place those hands out in front of us. And then with a few breaths, we'll lengthen in the spine. Exhale, we'll crawl those fingers forward, lower down into a little fold. Lengthen on the inhale. Exhale, fold. And now, keeping our chests low, we'll walk the hands around to one side, bringing the chest over the knee, reaching across the body. I went right, so my left arm is reaching across my body, wiggling those fingers away. but then also pressing both hip bones down into our mat. And then slowly we'll walk our hands back to the center. Take one breath here in the center. Lengthen on the inhale. Exhale, fold a little bit further. And then when we're ready, we'll walk those hands around over to the other side. Creepy crawling those fingers, pressing our sitting bones down. And then slowly coming back to the center. And then we'll walk the hands backwards, lifting our chest back up to seated. Good. And then we'll unwind those legs, wiggle out those toes just a little bit. Give them a bit of some blood back in there. And then we'll bring our feet out in front of us, a little bit wider than our hips. And then our hands can come back behind us, pulling the shoulders back, lifting the heart. And we'll do a little windshield wipers with our knees. So as we exhale, lowering the knees over to one side, lengthening in that top hip and quad. And then inhale, we come back up to the center, and then exhaling down to the other side. Moving with our breath side to side. Do one more to each side. Good. And then back up to the center. And now let's take those knees over to the right. Lengthen here. Think about lengthening from our left knee all the way through the hip into our tummy. Good. Right hand will stay on the ground. Left hand will reach up and then turn like we want to reach back behind us. Little twist here. Good. And then slowly we'll come back to the center. Knees will come up. And then exhale over to the other side. So going to the left, lengthening in that right leg. Micro adjustments as we move that hip around. We can start to feel where we're going to need it in that quad, in the hip, in our ribs. Good. And then when we're ready, lifting that right hand, reaching up, and then turning back behind us. Good. And slowly coming back to the center, lifting those knees up. Let's bring that right leg out in front of us. Parallel to the top of our mat, we'll tuck that left leg back behind us. Hands will come in front of that right shin. shin. Take a couple of breaths here. Let that left hip release. Get used to where we're at. And then as we settle, we can walk the hands forward, lower the chest down if we would like. If we get to a point and we don't like it, we can always back off. Elbows can come down to the ground, or we can walk all the way out, bringing the chest down into a full fold. Good, helping ourselves back up. Bringing the hands back behind us. Let's work on pressing that left knee into our mats. As we slowly come back, we can come back onto our elbows or all the way back into a fold. Or we can stay up on our hands, whatever. Think about continuing to lengthen in that left quad. And then slowly we'll help ourselves back up. Good. Hands will just come in front of that right shin again. And now we're going to twist around to the right, very similarly to what we just did. We're just going to bring it up a little bit higher. Hands are just on the other side of that right thigh. We lengthen on those inhales. We can continue to twist on the exhales. If we're happy here on our hands, we stay on our hands. If we would like, we can continue, much like before, as we come down to our elbows or down into a fold. And then slowly on our next inhale, we'll come up back onto our hands and then unwind back to the center. Good. Take a breath or two, just hang out here, and then we'll untwist those legs, bring them out in front of us, wiggle those toes. Both legs are nice and long, and we'll walk those hips back, moving the muscles, it's muscle, back underneath of our tailbone and our sitting bones, and then hands can come to the thighs or the shins as we lengthen on the inhale. Exhale, let's fold just a little bit, just creepy crawl those fingers further down, keeping the back nice and straight as we fold, using the breath. Good. And then dropping the head, rounding in the spine. Let's help ourselves back up to the top. We'll bend the knees ever so slightly or halfway. We're going to hug underneath the thighs. We're going to plaster that belly up against that the upper thighs. Chests are working a little bit past the knees right here. And now, as we begin to lengthen those legs, we'll begin to fold forward a little bit more. If we don't get all the way long with our legs, that's completely fine. What we're doing is making that connection with our upper body and our lower body in a good way that we are tilting the pelvis to a good angle as we fold. So if we have troubles with our forward folds, this is a great way to work on that, because we're still getting some good benefits in our hamstrings, in our backs, in our glutes. You have to say it like that. A gear from Willy Wonka. Let's do one more deep breath here. The tail end of that exhale, we'll release the hands and we'll slowly help ourselves back up. We can bend those knees again and we'll move over to the other side. So placing that left foot or left leg out in front of us, we'll tuck that right back behind, making deer pose again on this side. Hands can come out in front. Again, take a couple of breaths. Use the breath to help relax those hips. Let them get used to where we're at. And then when we're ready, we can slowly walk those hands forward, bringing the chest with us. And we can fold down onto our elbows or all the way down into a fold. One more breath here. And then on our next inhale, we'll help ourselves back up to the top. Good. And then we'll slowly work our way backwards. So now thinking about that right knee, pressing into our mats, lengthening all throughout the quad, the front of the hip, opening up our chest. Good, and then slowly and gracefully we come back up to the top. Good. Hands will find the floor out in front of that left shin, and then we'll begin to walk our way around for our twist. Walking around so that our hands are around toward the thigh. This right hip will want to come up. That's absolutely fine. Lengthen on the inhales. We twist on the exhales. After a little bit, if we would like, we can walk those hands out a little bit further. Begin to fold. Stay here for one more deep breath. And then when we're ready, inhaling, helping ourselves back up to the top and then unwinding and bring those legs out in front of us again. And now let's hug behind those hamstrings. And then slowly exhale, lengthening the legs to where we're at right now. Good, and then slowly we'll release. Let's swing those legs back behind us. We'll find ourselves in child's pose. Knees are wide, toes are together, hips are all the way back by our heels. And we can even use our hands to kind of help press our hips back. Arms are out in front of us. Good. And from here, if we would like, we can bring our elbows a little bit closer together and then turn our palms up toward the sky. A little bit different sensation in our shoulders as we melt the chest down, we relax in the neck. Good, and now let's turn those palms back down. We'll keep our chest's low, and we're going to wiggle those fingers forward so that our hips come over the knees. If we need to bring the knees in together just a little bit so that they're underneath the hips. Chest is still low. Let's tilt that pelvis so our tailbone is pointing up toward the sky. Arms are still out in front. And we can rest our forehead on our mats, or we can turn and maybe we can place our chin on the mat. And then we can slowly walk those hands backwards. Bring the knees together, round in the spine. We can even bring those arms back by our toes. Tuck the chin. And roll up into a little egg here. Good. Arms come out in front of us. We'll tuck those toes. Press into those heels. Open up in our arches. And then slowly we'll lift our bums up high to the sky, and we'll begin to walk those hands backwards into a forward fold here. Pedal in the knees if we would like. We can wag our tails. Give ourselves a little wiggle. And then from here, let's walk our feet heel toe out a little bit wider than our hips, and we'll point our toes to the corners of the room, and then slowly lowering our butts down into a malasana squat. Elbows are to the inside of our knees. We can give ourselves a little hug if we would like. We can bring our hands to prayer so we can help open up those knees and hips a little bit, lifting our chest, lowering the bum. Now, if we're having trouble getting really low in our squat, we can always do this up against the wall for support, or we can place a block or a couch cushion underneath to help so that we don't have to think about our balance as we do our squat. We can just get into that good stretch and not be afraid of falling down. Good. And then hands will come down to the mat, and we'll slowly lower ourselves back onto our butts. We're going to do a lot of sitting stuff today. Give ourselves a bit of a wiggle. We're going to keep this left leg nice and long. We're going to bend the right knee. We'll just place the foot over the left knee. Just take a little second. Let the knee on that right leg move away from the body. And then as we get into this, we have lots of choices. We can keep our hands behind us and begin to bend that left knee, helping get the rotation in the hips, get into that glute. Or we can hook this right foot into our elbow, the right knee into our other elbow, and we can cradle the baby, hugging that shin in tight to our bodies. And that'll get a little bit deeper into that hip and into that glute. We can still bend that left knee if we need. This is a great time to work on our micro adjustments, little tiny shifts here and there. See how it feels if we move our body in just a very tiny specific way. How does that help or does it hinder? One more big deep inhale here. Exhaling slowly and completely. Beautiful. And now we'll just release that foot. We'll keep it crossed here and we'll place that right foot on the outside of that left thigh, hugging the knee in tight to our bodies. Lengthening in that on the inhale, and then exhale, we'll begin to twist toward the right. Think about still lowering that right hip down in towards our mat as we twist. And at the tail end of our next exhale, we'll unwind, we'll untangle, give us a little wiggle and a shake if we would like, and then look, right leg can take a break. Left foot will cross over that right knee, and we can come into our figure four here. Again, think about moving that left knee away from the body, flexing the foot to protect our knee. Nice tall spine. Always adjust how close or far away our foot is. Or if we would like, we can continue into our cradle to baby by hooking our elbows around either side of this left leg, hugging it tight into our bodies. Think about keeping a nice tall spine as we do this. Rock it side to side if we would like, or don't if we don't like it. One more deep inhale. Slow and complete exhale. And At the tail end of the exhale, we can release back down and place the foot on the outside of the right thigh. Hug the knee tight into our body. Inhale, lengthen, and then exhale, we twist to the left. Inhaling here. Exhale, a little bit deeper in that twist. Slowly we'll unwind and we'll untangle. Give our little shake and wiggle. Bring those knees into our chest. Roll up into our ball and we'll rock back onto our backs. We can give ourselves our little massage by rocking forward and backward or side to side. Good. And now from here, this is a fun one, but can get a little bit tough. So we're going to take this right leg, crisscross it knee to knee over the left leg, flexing both feet. And then we're going to reach up and find the ankles or the heels and slowly bring those buddies down and in towards our bodies. Breath, we relax our shoulders and our heads into the mat. And then think about that tailbone still pressing down as well. Inhaling here. Exhale, bring those legs in a little bit further. And then we'll release and unwind. And then other side. So lengthen in those legs. We'll take the left knee over the top of the right. Flex the feet. And then come and get them with the hands as we slowly bring it back down gently, encouraging those legs to come with us as we melt those shoulders in towards our mats. Stay for that last exhale. And then we'll release the feet, unwind, give ourselves a wiggle, and then we'll roll up into our little ball when we're ready, hugging those knees into our chest, tucking our chin, bringing our forehead in towards our knees. Inhaling, lifting our hands and feet up to the sky, giving ourselves that wiggle. And then exhaling, hands and feet come down to the mat. Once we get there, we give ourselves one last stretch, make ourselves as long as we can. And then exhale, releasing everything, closing our eyes, softening our jaw, and giving ourselves this time to just be still. And when we're ready, we deepen our breath. Bring little movement into our fingers and our toes. Move our head from side to side. We come back into our space. And when it's time, we'll roll up into our little ball, rock over onto our side. Slowly, we'll help ourselves up to seated. Check in with how we are feeling right now after our practice. We'll bring our hands together at our hearts. Lower our heads, bow to ourselves in gratitude for all of the gifts that we just gave us. And I thank you so much for joining me. It is an absolute privilege for me to help you with your practice, to help you continue your dedication to bettering your connection with yourself, make you feel a little better every single day. I wish you all a very, very happy rest of your day. The light and the divine in me recognizes and respects the light and the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste.